Today is June 24th, making it, of course, the second day of the Steam sale. So we have fresh deals for the front page and fresh recommendations from myself, as well as, of course, going through everything that's on the front page today and the best deals and all that good stuff. So let's begin with one of the stronger games on today's front page, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. Now, Binding of Isaac probably needs no introduction. It is probably one of the most popular roguelike games. It is an RPG shooter, where you're sort of top-down perspective, going through increasingly weird dungeons where you sort of encounter weird, wonderful monsters that are kind of like sort of realizations of Isaac's biggest fears, and weird spiders, and the pickups are really messed up, like you have like mum's knife, mum's pants and stuff like that. It is a very weird and wonderful experience, but an excellent game. There's a reason it is overwhelmingly positive on Steam. Now, this is 40% off for the Rebirth game, which is sort of an improved version of the original Binding of Isaac. The original doesn't have things like controller support, and various other things have been added to the Rebirth edition, so it is definitely worth the extra cash if you already own the original Binding of Isaac. And there's even a bundle with the Afterbirth expansion, but the just Rebirth is 40% off, making it £6.59. Whereas the Rebirth and Afterbirth bundle are 37% off, making them £11.94. I would definitely recommend Rebirth if you're at all into roguelike games. I doubt many of you need much telling about this game, so if this looks like your bag, this is a pretty damn good deal. Let's move swiftly on to the Final Fantasy franchise. And we have some fairly good deals for all the Final Fantasy games here. The more recent Final Fantasy Type 0 HD is 50% off, making it $9.99. Final Fantasy 13-2 is 50% off again, making it $6.49. 13 itself is 50% off, making it $5.49. And you've also got the classics, like, say, Final Fantasy 8 is 50% off, making it $4.99. What's a bit weird is that Final Fantasy 7 isn't reduced, which is really, really odd. But Final Fantasy 3 is, making it £5.49 at 50% off. I don't think I need to tell you about those games, so let's move swiftly on, shall we? The next game on our list today is Super Hot. Super Hot. Now, this is a very strange first-person shooter. Basically, the time only moves when you move. So when you're stopped, you can think about enemy placement, what weapon you have, that sort of thing. Think about your moves and then make them. And it is very much about strategic planning and fast and very quick rounds, because you can easily mess up, get killed, quickly reload back into the game, and then try again, try a different strategy. Maybe you should take out that guy for running behind this counter here and then throwing your gun at him, and all sorts of other crazy things. This game is a very sort of basic graphic style, kind of stylized, but the graphics probably going to put some of you off. But Super Hot is a really unique FPS. It is really interesting, more about strategy than just PvP shooting. So if you're at all interested in weird games, or if you want an interesting take on the first-person shooter genre, it might be worth a bash. Let's continue with something a bit more AAA, a bit more of a heavy hitter, with Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. Which is, of course, Hideo Kojima's swan song, his sort of bow out from the Metal Gear Solid 5 franchise, and of course his final game before he left Konami, #FuckKonami. Again, this is another game that doesn't really need much introduction. This has been getting rave reviews all across the board. It is an open world game, but obviously Metal Gear Solid. The story is, well, weird and wonderful as you'd expect, and the gameplay is on point. I have heard lots and lots of good things about Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. It is very much about, you can solve the missions any way you want. This is one of the few games that actually allows you to have sort of different options, a few other things. Now, the game does have some microtransactions, unless those have been removed. Last time I checked, it did have microtransactions, so perhaps keep that in mind if that bothers you. If not, the game is 30% off, making it £17.49, and there's also a few bits of DLC which are reduced, making them like 40p each. And also there's a sort of costume pack and Metal Gear Online pack and a few other things, but I'm sure most of you are probably interested in the main game. Perhaps you wanted to buy this but didn't have the cash. This is a fairly decent deal for a game that's not really been out super long, so perhaps check it out. Next up on our list is Killing Floor 2, which straight off the bat is still in early access. It is, of course, the next game from Tripwire, which again is still in early access, but they did reveal at the PC Gaming Show that it will be finally leaving early access this fall, and they have also detailed some pretty nice sort of DLC upcoming as well, more content for you guys. Now, this is basically a 6-player co-op sort of zombie shooter, and there's also a 12-player survival mode, and there's all sorts of weird guns, and you've got to work together as a team and fight against sort of strange zombies and that sort of thing. Killing Floor 2 is been getting mixed reviews, but the original Killing Floor is, of course, a bit of a classic, so perhaps check out some gameplay and all that good stuff from earlier builds. Before dropping your cash, of course, this isn't terribly reduced. It is 33% off, making it £13.39, which isn't terribly expensive, but of course, it's still on the higher end for the Steam sale. So perhaps check out some reviews, as it does seem to have mixed reviews, but it is a Killing Floor game, and it's pretty much what you would expect. Next up is something that has not gone down well on PC at all, Tom Clancy's The Division. Now, as I discussed in a video a little while ago, this has lost 93% of its player base on PC since launch, which is crazy. And the reviews on Steam are overall mixed and recently overwhelmingly negative. I would not personally buy this game, even at 25% off, making it £29.99. It is, of course, a full price game, £39.99 otherwise, as there's a huge cheating problem with the game. There's not really much content, there's not much end game, and the gameplay is okay at best. The best thing about this game is the world, which is very well realised, very pretty, but overall this game was a massive disappointment. You probably don't need me to tell you that, so I would avoid at this still fairly hefty price. Perhaps check it out when it's gone down to like £8 or something, but not at this price, because especially on PC, this ain't the game for anybody really. Next up are some games that have done much better on PC, at least, mostly, apart from one of them, is the Sniper Elite franchise. Now, we do have a trilogy pack, which is of course the 1, 2 and 3, which is 75% off, making it £14.99. Given that that collection is normally £60, it's actually a really nice deal. You get 3 games with 15 quid, which is not bad, actually. And you've got Sniper Elite 3 and the Season Pass by itself for 75% off, making it £13.24. So in my mind, if you're going to buy Sniper Elite 3, you might as well drop the extra £1 or so and get all 3 games, because why not? You've also got the Zombie Army trilogy for about £5.99, making it 80% off, and the Zombie Army games, like 1 and 2, are both 70% off, making them £3.29. So we got some nice deals here from Sniper Elite. If you've been at all curious about these games, or the Zombie Army games, they are very cheap. The cheapest, of course, are the Zombie Army 2 and Nazi Zombie Army as well. So perhaps give those a bash if you're into Sniper Elite, or if at all been interested in Sniper Elite. Some pretty nice reductions on these particular games. Next up is a game very close to my heart as a strong horror release of Alien Isolation. This was definitely a surprise. I was skeptical given, well, our history with Alien games, but Alien Isolation is a truly fantastic first-person horror experience. If you're into your real sort of horror experiences, where you've got lots of atmosphere, lots of creeping dread, lots of stealth, and solving puzzles, and very much sort of like trying to avoid the alien, that sort of thing, this is a really, really good game. It was a real surprise hit for me. This is probably one of the best Alien games ever made, and definitely a really good horror game for 2014 when it came out. It is 75% off, making it £7.99, an absolute steal. So I would definitely recommend this game. Now, there's also the Alien Isolation Collection, which has all the DLC plus the main game, of course, which is in itself is 75% off, making it £9.99. So perhaps get that if you're at all interested in the DLC. The DLC itself is also reduced by itself if you already have the main game. Each one is at 75% off, making them £1.39 each, so if you already have the main game, perhaps consider picking up the DLC, and I'm sure you know this is a fantastic game. Next up on our list is another early access game, Master of Orion, Conquer the Stars, should I say, excuse me. Now, this does have mixed reviews, but overall mostly positive. Recently is mixed, overall is mostly positive, and I've heard good things about the early access of this game. It seems to be fairly true to the core of Master of Orion, while still kind of modernising it and improving upon it. I myself haven't played it because it's not really my bag, so I suggest you check out some gameplay and reviews, but it seems to be doing fairly well for itself, and of course it still is an early access, so it will be changing, and what you play now won't necessarily be the final product. Or you might want to wait for the full release if you're an Orion fan. You might want to wait till the game is fully fledged and at its best rather than seeing it while it's still being worked on, and I would completely understand that. But if you're at all interested, it is 30% off, making it £20.99. Next up is Age of Empires 2 HD, another game that needs no introduction. This is 85% off, making it £2.24, which is pretty damn cheap. And there's also the game plus expansions, so that's also 80% off, making it £5.39. You get the game plus the Age of Empires 2 HD and the 2 expansions for this particular title. Now, this isn't really my type of a game again, but it seems to be getting positive reviews here on Steam, and does look pretty faithful to the original, and I've read and heard good things, so perhaps if you've been interested in this game or want something fairly cheap to play that's a bit of a callback, then maybe check out Age of Empires 2 HD. For £2.24, you can't really go wrong. Another early access game, there seems to be a lot of them on sale this time, is Naval Action. Now, I'm going to be honest with you, I hadn't heard of this game before today, but it's described as a, quote, exciting, realistic and beautifully detailed naval combat game, immersing players into experience the most beautiful period of naval history when sailing ships ruled the seas. Now, this does have overall mostly positive reviews and mixed reviews recently. Looking at the screenshots, it does look rather pretty, but of course with a game like this, it's all about the gameplay. If this sounds like your kind of bag, I suggest you read the reviews on Steam, check out gameplay videos, yada yada yada, because again, this isn't my type of game. I know I hadn't even heard of it for today. It does seem, looking at the Steam comments, that this game needs a lot of work, so perhaps wait on the full version before you consider getting on board. This is still fairly expensive and 25% off, making it £22.49, so it's still significant investment, so perhaps hold fire on this one, as it does seem a bit kind of mixed at this early stage. Next up is a virtual reality game by the name of Hover Junkers. Now, this does require a virtual reality headset, so if you don't have one, then this game is obviously not for you. Rather, it is 30% off, making it £18.89, so not too bad. It does have good reviews, and it's basically described as multiplayer VR gunfights, and you basically pilot and fortify hover junkers, and you physically walk, duck, dodge, and aim in cross-ship combat. It does sound rather fun, but without a VR headset, definitely hold fire. It looks good. Just looking at the screenshots, I myself have not played it because I don't actually have a VR headset, but it looks good. You know, if you're after something to play on your VR headset, this looks like it could be a safe bet. The theme of this video is definitely early access, as we now have H1Z1 King of the Kill. And as you probably know, this is basically the sort of PvP mode of H1Z1, and it's 35% off, making it £9.74. So yeah, if you're after some sort of arena-style grudge match, you know, hectic PvP in the H1Z1 worlds, then perhaps give it a bash, perhaps not. It is, again, still in early access, and I know nothing about it, so I'm not the person to tell you, I'm afraid. So let's move swiftly on. Next up is another game that needs no introduction, has been on sale about 1,000 times, Left 4 Dead 2. This is pretty much the sort of co-op PvE game. You know, you work together to take down zombies, you know, teamwork, all sorts of different sort of types of creatures and strategies to employ to use those creatures. This game needs no introduction. It's been on sale approximately 1 million times, so yeah, it speaks for itself really. It is 80% off, making it £2.99, or you can get Left 4 Dead 1 and 2 in a bundle for 85% off, making it £4.48, so not too shabby at all. Next up is a game about catgirls, Nekopara Volume 2. This is an anime game with anime catgirls. It is described as a catgirl comedy, which is only a little bit lewd, and it seems to have pretty damn good reviews, and as much as I make fun, the art is actually pretty nice looking, so if you're after sort of visual novel experience with, you know, hey, cute catgirls, this might be something you might be interested in. It's fairly cheap. It is 33% off, making it £4.68, or there's a bundle of a complete edition, which has Volume 1, 2, and, Volume 1, 0, and of course Volume 2 as well. £7.43, 53% off, as well as some DLC, which is the theme song as well. If you're into anime catgirls, look no further. So that's the end of the mainline games, but there are more highlighted deals. I'm just going to quickly blast through them to sort of end up the video. No descriptions or anything here, just going to really quickly go through the rest of the games on the front page. We have Star Drive 2, Star Wars Rogue Squadron 3D, Paint the Town Red, Dungeon of the Endless, Metro franchise, Bully, Simple Planes, Big Pharma, Sunless Sea, Project Zomboid, Transformers Devastation, Torchlight 2, Shadwen, Splinter Cell, Blacklist, Reign of Kings, and there you go. That is it for today's Steam sale. Quite a nice collection. So what would I recommend from today? Well, my highest recommendations have to go towards Binding of Isaac and Alien Isolation. Both fantastic games. If they're not your bag, well, there's plenty more other games to choose from. Of course, others that are not on the main page as well. So be sure to have a look. But those are what I would recommend from today's front page Steam sales. Thank you very much for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.